Leave it on the bed, Sienna. That dress isn't for you. It is for Jasmine. Caleb held up the emerald silk gown I had bought with my own Christmas bonus. He didn't look guilty. He looked annoyed that I was touching it. Elijah wants a dynamic power couple for the gala, he said, checking his reflection in the vanity mirror. You give off administrative vibes. Jasmine has the spark. I need her to be the co-founder tonight to close the $150,000 deal. My blood turned to ice. He wasn't asking. He was replacing me. He slid a single sheet of paper across the duvet. Not an apology. A non-disclosure agreement. She plays the wife. You stay invisible. Sign this so we are legal, he said, flashing that empty smile. It is just business, babe. Don't make it weird. Most wives would have ripped that paper in half. Most wives would have thrown the emerald dress into the fireplace. But I am not most wives. I am an operations manager. When a system fails, I do not get emotional. I audit the damage, and Caleb was a failing system I had been propping up for 3 years. I took the pen and stared at the signature line. He stood there, adjusting his cufflinks, thinking he was the CEO of a booming empire. In reality, he was the mascot of a sinking ship. He loved the title founder, but he hated the math that came with it. He forgot who paid the $4,000 mortgage on this house every month. He forgot who covered the $800 server fees for his app that nobody downloaded. He forgot that the networking drinks he expensed were paid for by my overtime shifts at the logistics firm. You are right, I said, my voice dead flat. It is just business. I signed the NDA. He smirked, thinking he had won. He thought he was benching a boring wife to bring in a star player. He had no idea he was firing the only person who knew the playbook. See, Caleb did not organize this gala. He did not know the venue required a $2 million liability insurance policy, which I secured last Tuesday. He did not know the catering deposit was due at midnight, paid from my personal savings. And he certainly did not know that the security team guarding the VIP room, the very room where he planned to pitch Elijah, reported directly to me. I hired them. I signed their checks. To the staff at the Hotel Delacroix, Caleb was just the talent. I was the boss. He grabbed the paper from my hand. Satisfied. Thanks, babe. You are a lifesaver. Seriously, take the night off. Order a pizza. Watch a movie. Let the pros handle Elijah. I watched him walk out the door, whistling. He thought he was cutting dead weight. He didn't realize he had just cut his own parachute while falling at terminal velocity. I waited for the front door to click shut. Then I walked into my home office and opened his company's ledger. If he wanted to play business, we were going to play by my rules. And my rules were written in red ink. The next evening, the air in my living room smelled like expensive perfume and betrayal. Jasmine was standing in the center of the rug, spinning in the emerald silk gown I had bought to celebrate my promotion. The dress rippled around her. It looked beautiful. And she knew it. God, Sienna, she said, stopping to examine herself in the hallway mirror. She smoothed the fabric over her hips. Did you actually buy this for you? I stood in the doorway, holding the garment bag she had demanded I fetch. Yes, I did. It is a little tight in the hips, don't you think? I mean, on me it is perfect because I have the curves for it. She laughed, a light, tinkling sound that grated on my nerves. You have such a boxy shape. Practical, I guess. Caleb walked in, adjusting his bow tie. He stopped, looking at her with a hunger he hadn't shown me in years. She is right, babe, he said to me, not even making eye contact. You are functional. Jasmine is aspirational. That is what investors buy. Jasmine smirked at me through the mirror. This was the moment. The moment where I was supposed to cry, or scream, or beg them to stop. You should really take notes tonight, sis, Jasmine said, leaning in to fix her lipstick. You are great at the boring stuff. The paperwork, the bills. You are built for the background. But let us be honest. Some of us were simply born to be the highlight. I looked at them. The husband I supported and the sister I subsidized. They weren't just using me, they were resentful of the hand that fed them. It is a strange psychology. The parasite doesn't just feed off the host. It mocks the host for bleeding. They hate you because your existence is proof of their inability to survive on their own. You look great, Jasmine, I said. My voice was calm. Don't spill anything on it. I turned and walked away. They thought I was retreating. I wasn't. I was going to load the gun. I retreated to my home office and locked the door. The sound of their excitement drifted down the hall like smoke. I sat at my desk and opened the draft of the new co-founder agreement Caleb had asked me to prepare. He wanted a document that gave Jasmine a title. I was going to give him that. And so much more. I didn't cry. I typed. I drafted an amendment to the company's operating agreement. It was a masterpiece of legal lethality. Clause 14. The intellectual property transfer. This clause stated that all client lists, software code, and branding assets were the sole property of Sienna Consulting LLC, in exchange for 3 years of deferred wages. Clause 22. The cross-collateralization and personal guarantee. This assigned all corporate debt, specifically the $150,000 loan they were asking Elijah for, to the individual signatories. I printed the documents. The ink was still warm. Then, I waited. I knew Caleb. He was never on time. At 6:57 in the evening, the limousine pulled into the driveway. Chaos erupted in the hallway. "Where is my phone? Jasmine, let us go!" Caleb yelled. "I cannot find my earring." "Sienna," Jasmine shrieked. I stepped out into the hallway with the clipboard. It was the perfect storm of vanity and panic. "The driver is waiting," I said, my voice sharp. I shoved the clipboard at Caleb. "I cannot file the founder status with the state unless you sign these compliance forms right now. Or do you want to tell Elijah you are just a guest?" "What is this?" Caleb snapped, fumbling for a pen. "SEC compliance. Standard liability waivers. Sign it, or the deal is dead before you get in the car." Caleb didn't read it. He was too busy looking at his watch. He scrawled his signature directly under the cross-collateralization clause. I turned to Jasmine. "You too. This grants you the equity." "Finally," she huffed. She signed the personal guarantee without even glancing at the header. She thought she was signing for millions. She was signing for debt. "Done." "Go," I said. They ran out the door, fighting over who would sit on the good side of the limo. I stood alone in the hallway, holding the clipboard. They think power is the spotlight. They think it is the applause and the champagne. They are wrong. Power is the fine print. And I just owned them. The Hotel Delacroix was glowing. Photographers lined the entrance. I didn't take the red carpet. I took the side entrance. The security guard, a large man named Marcus, stepped in front of me. Then he saw my face. "Evening, boss," Marcus said, stepping aside and lifting the velvet rope. "They are in the closing room." "Thanks, Marcus. Keep the press out." I walked through the kitchen, past the catering staff who nodded at me, and stopped in front of the double mahogany doors of the VIP closing room. I could hear Caleb's voice inside. He was pitching. I opened the door. The room was silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Elijah, the investor, sat at the head of the table. He looked bored. Caleb and Jasmine were sitting opposite him, holding hands like a prom couple. "So," Elijah said, tapping a gold pen on the table. "The brand story is cute. But let us talk numbers. What is your customer acquisition cost relative to the new Q3 churn rate?" Caleb froze. He blinked. He looked at Jasmine. Jasmine giggled, a nervous, high-pitched sound. "Oh, Elijah," she said, flipping her hair. "We focus on the vibes, not the boring math." Elijah's face went cold. He started to close his portfolio. "Actually," I said, stepping into the light, "the customer acquisition cost is $42, and the churn rate is 4%. Caleb spun around in his chair. His face went pale. "Sienna? What are you doing here?" "Get out." "Who is this?" Elijah asked, looking from me to Caleb. "I am the operations manager," I said, walking to the table. I placed a folder in front of Elijah. "And I am the owner of the intellectual property you are about to invest in." "Sienna." "Stop." Caleb stood up, knocking his chair over. I ignored him. I looked straight at Elijah. "The co-founder sitting across from you has zero equity. She signed a personal guarantee for the debt, but she owns nothing. The man beside her has committed material misrepresentation by presenting her as a principal. If you sign that check, you are investing in an empty shell." Elijah opened the folder. He saw the IP transfer. He saw the dates. He saw the fraud. He stood up and capped his pen. "You wasted my time," Elijah said to Caleb. His voice was quiet and dangerous. "And you tried to defraud my firm. If I ever see you in this city again, I will have legal destroy you." He shredded the check in front of Caleb's face and walked out. The silence in the room was deafening. Caleb looked at the shredded paper. Jasmine looked at me, her mouth open. "You ruined it," Caleb whispered. "You ruined everything." "No, Caleb," I said. I just corrected the ledger. Caleb drove like a maniac on the way back to the house. I could see his knuckles turning white on the steering wheel of the leased BMW, another bill I paid. Jasmine was in the back seat, crying about how I had humiliated her in front of the only rich man she had ever met. They rushed up the driveway, expecting a fight. They expected to storm inside, scream at me, and maybe break a few things to feel like they were back in control. Caleb marched up to the front door and punched in his code. Beep, 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 buzz, red light, What the hell? He punched it again. Harder. Buzz. It is broken, he shouted, kicking the bottom of the door. Sienna! Open this damn door. I was standing in the driveway, leaning against the hood of my car. The trunk was packed. My laptop bag was on the passenger seat. It is not broken, Caleb, I said. The night air was cool against my skin. It is repossessed. He spun around. What are you talking about? The cross-collateralization clause you signed 3 hours ago, I explained, keeping my voice low and steady. It linked the business loan to the house. When Elijah killed the deal and threatened legal action for fraud, it triggered an automatic default on your existing credit line. The bank's algorithm flagged the risk immediately. I held up my phone. As the registered property manager for the LLC, I received the notification 5 minutes ago. I was required to secure the asset. So, I wiped the digital keys. Jasmine stepped out of the car, shivering in the green dress. So, let us in so we can pack. I cannot, I said. The security system is now under bank control. Entry is prohibited until the foreclosure auction. If you try to break in, the police will be here in 6 minutes. Caleb stared at the house. The house I had cleaned. The house I had paid for. The house where I had wasted 3 years of my life, trying to make him feel like a king. Now, it was just a locked box containing his participation trophies. Where are we supposed to sleep? He asked. His voice wasn't angry anymore. It was small. I do not know, Caleb. You are the CEO. Innovate something. I got into my car and started the engine. I didn't look back as I pulled out of the driveway, leaving them standing in the dark, locked out of a life they never earned. The fallout wasn't immediate, but it was absolute. Justice in the real world is not a lightning bolt. It is a slow, crushing weight. Because Jasmine had signed the personal guarantee, the $150,000 debt didn't vanish when the company folded. It attached itself to her credit score like a tumor. She tried to claim she didn't know what she was signing, but the notary stamp, which I had conveniently arranged at the house, held up in court. She moved back into our parents' basement, trading her dreams of being a co-founder for a double shift at a diner to pay off the garnishment orders. Caleb fared worse. The material misrepresentation flag Elijah put on his file made him radioactive in the city. No investor would touch him. The BMW was repossessed 2 weeks after the house. The last I heard, he was selling solar panels door to door in a different state, living with 3 roommates who probably have no idea he used to play CEO. For months, my phone would light up with notifications from blocked numbers. Voicemails from Caleb at 2 in the morning. Sienna, babe. I messed up. I missed the team. We were a good team. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I just felt bored. I deleted them without listening to the end. It was the same way you delete a spam email offering you a miracle cure. You know it is fake, and you know the cost of clicking the link. I stopped being a wife, and I started being myself. I launched my own consulting firm, Sienna Strategy Group. I didn't need a frontman anymore. I didn't need a visionary to interpret my work. I walked into meetings, pitched my own data, and cashed my own checks. I bought a new place. Small, modern, with a security system that only had one code. Mine. But in the quiet moments, when the work is done and the apartment is silent, I force myself to look at the ugly truth. Not about them. About me. We love to hate the narcissist. We love to hate the user, the moocher, the cheater. But we rarely turn the mirror on the person standing next to them holding the checkbook. I wasn't just a victim. I was a volunteer. I spent years telling myself I was a supportive partner. I told myself I was being loyal. That marriage means sticking it out through the hard times. But there is a difference between supporting someone through a storm and standing in the rain holding an umbrella over a man who is watering the pavement. I was an enabler. I shielded Caleb from every consequence of his own mediocrity. When he couldn't pay rent, I paid it. When he couldn't write a pitch, I wrote it. When he felt small, I made myself smaller so he could feel big. I thought I was helping him. I wasn't. I was feeding his delusion. I was the gasoline in his engine of entitlement. If you are the responsible one in your relationship, if you are the one who fixes, pays, and plans, you need to learn the 3 rules I learned the hard way. Rule number 1. Loyalty is not a suicide pact. You do not owe anyone your future just because you share a past. You do not owe anyone your financial stability just because they are family. The moment someone asks you to light yourself on fire to keep them warm, the contract is void. Loyalty ends where disrespect begins. Rule number 2. The potential myth. Stop falling in love with potential. Stop dating the man he could be if he just got a lucky break. Stop hiring the sister she could be if she just focused. Look at who they are right now. Caleb was never a CEO in waiting. He was a child playing dress up with my money. I fell in love with a ghost I projected onto him. Deal with reality, or reality will deal with you. Rule number 3. Contracts over feelings. This is the most important one. When love dies, only the paperwork survives. We think it is unromantic to talk about NDAs, prenups, and asset division. We think it is cold. It is not cold. It is survival. If I hadn't read the fine print, if I hadn't understood the leverage of a UCC-1 lien, I would be the one homeless today. I would be the one with the debt. Never sign your name to someone else's ego. Always keep the receipt. So, look at your life right now. Look at the people around you. Who are you carrying? Who is riding on your back, complaining that you aren't walking fast enough? Put them down. They will scream. They will call you selfish. They will try to destroy you. But once you put them down, you will realize something that will change your life. You weren't heavy. They were. And you can walk so much faster without them.